If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today, because we bring the discussion with the sources.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Walk with me through the cellar door.
The storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Oh, welcome to episode, I don't know, it's 152, maybe 153, maybe it's episode 154. I don't know. I do know that this week
matter.
It does matter, Hannah. And I do know this week it is Thanksgiving. And I know not everybody celebrates Thanksgiving, and I know not everybody has the same support group others do. So if you do not, please take care of yourself. Reach out if you need something. Or, you know what? Enjoy a day where you don't have to go to work and you can eat as much food as you want and hang out with whoever you want.
Yeah, in some places, if you don't have like friends, family, or something along those lines, some places do a event. I was just flipping through the Reddits, and there was a picture and said the true meaning of the holidays. And this is a Christmas event or whatever, but it's an older picture, and it just had two people had a small little store, and they said, "We're open on the holidays from noon to 2 in the afternoon. Come in. You don't need to pay anything. You're with family." And the whole concept is basically, they have like a little meal that they're making at their restaurant or their place, and it's just people come in and do something. There are places all over that are doing these kinds of events for people who may not have something or someone or the means to enjoy, a family meal. And there's stuff out there. If you want to go out and look for it, there's people out there. You may have to be careful. You might get some proselytizing. We still have a little bit of that happens from in free events, but I don't know. There's a lot of goodwill that we run into around the holiday season, so that at least that part is nice.
And if you're in West Michigan, there is a bunch of members in the CFI Living Without Religion group that do a secular Thanksgiving. And I guarantee if you message me, I can hook you up with the people who do this as well.
A secular Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving doesn't really have a religious roots, or is it just it gets imposed on it?
Well, yeah, it's this one is meant for anybody that doesn't want to go home to their families, can't go home to their families, or anybody living in the Grand Rapids area that would like to hang out with other like-minded people who happen to be secular or non-religious, and yeah. So there's a couple of different parties that I know of. I guess they're not parties, but different groups going on that are doing Thanksgiving dinners. So if you need more information, message me and I can put you in touch with those in Grand Rapids who would be more than happy to have you join us. To begin the show tonight, and I know last week was very short. That was just kind of a Chris episode or a Tantastic episode, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But, I had to do something as an update because I'd been waiting all week, and then life kind of got in the way for Hanna. We had an interview on another podcast called Fully Deconverted. You can check out the links in the description if you would like to hear us on another podcast talk about our upbringing, why we're very politically motivated if you hadn't figured it out, and a little bit about how we look at morality, which is not a topic we talk about much on the show right now in terms of a morality debate. And I like that. That's my favorite debate.
it kind of felt afterwards. It was like, man, that was like bringing back that old feel of when you and I first started doing anything online. Like it was like very religious, concentrated. Like we hadn't done a lot of that. We kind of moved on to, trying to find legislation to enforce change as opposed to debating the philosophy and, stuff of non-belief and belief and everything. I don't know. It just felt like the old days.
It did. And it was a very fun interview. Again, links are in the description. You can check us out on Fully Deconverted podcast or the YouTube video. I don't know which one it is. But, the links will be in the description. To begin with, though, tonight, so we went past the midterms, right? And last week I challenged everybody to say, hey, I don't have the answers. But all I know is that we can sit here and concentrate right now and yelling at Trump. We can concentrate right now yelling the GOP. I could tell you there's probably at least 15 stories that have happened this week that I would love to talk about, that I would love to discuss, that I would like to just vent about. But what I wanted to do is I want to say, hey, hold on a second. Let's take a step back for a few weeks at least. And let's start focusing on different things that we used to, such as science. We need to get back to a science segment because I miss those. I really miss those a lot. And I have 2 of them this week, but we're only going to do 1. And we're going to save the next one for next week. But I really like the science segments that we were doing. But I want to focus on how do we promote local businesses, at least if it's only for the first 5 or 10 minutes of the show. So to begin with, I found a organization called Michigan Women's Foundation, www.miwf.org. And the reason I kind of focused or found this was through a friend of mine, and she happened to be, promoting a campaign that talks about what's going on with this organization. And I thought, hey, you know what? This is local to Michigan. This is how do we change again the mentality, right? Do we want to go out in 2 years and remove the GOP from office? Absolutely. Right now is not the time to just start campaigning, though. Some people are going to. Within 6 months, we're going to start seeing campaign ads for Democrats. We know what's going to happen. But
yeah, there are already people that are starting their 2020 campaigns. I saw someone on Facebook saying, getting ready to go join the campaign for 2020. It's like, I get it, but not everything in the world is a national race. And so I think I understand where you're going with this. Is you found a local group that's got a really strong, progressive, forward-thinking message that celebrates women and everything that we love about women. And what does this group do specifically?
So their primary initiative is a statewide presence known as the Foundation on which Michigan's women and girls thrive. They have a strategic plan that focuses on 3 key initiatives. 1, accelerating women's entrepreneurship, developing the next generation of women leaders, and advancing Michigan's women agenda. Now, I know...
Where do I sign my daughter up for that?
There you go, right? And that's kind of, the thing is, a lot of people are, I posted this, and a lot of people were like, well, do you understand? What are you against men's rights? It's like, no, I'm not against men's rights, but for Christ's sake, I mean, men have dominated the scene for so long. I'm not saying that we replace all men with women, though that might actually be a good change for a little while. But that's not what I'm advocating. I'm advocating let's level the playing field. Let's look at where can small businesses thrive. That's what this organization does. And the reason I thought of this is a little bit because of you, because you own your own business. You spend a lot of time encouraging it. You are not a woman, but you are a small business owner. And so to me, I thought this was a good conversation for a few minutes to have about this organization because they want to help create more small businesses that are ran by women. Now,
that's awesome. One of the biggest things that I know for a fact that there's a difference between small businesses and people that are trying to get funding to start those businesses is that men are much more likely to get small business loans, and investors will give money to men way before they will to women. It's a terrible thing in venture capitalism when someone has a nice idea, they're trying to start a company, or they just got a small startup and they're seeking funds. Most of the time, women get overlooked. It's been changing. There's a lot of stuff that's been kind of moving forward. But when it comes to women and starting companies and funding, and there isn't an equal playing field, even in the starting gates, like right out of the hole, it's offset. So
exactly, and they actually just changed their name to Michigan Women Forward. They are moving away from the foundation. And this is actually how I found this, was through an article from Cranes Detroit. And I never heard of this website before until somebody had posted it. And I read this article and I was like, holy crap. So they're changing their initiative a little bit, right? They essentially, their mission, has it evolved over years, is now to look at making small, high-risk loans of less than $50,000 to entrepreneurs who banks won't touch. Now,
oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Exactly. And think about it this way, right? You and I, we talk about this all the time. We talk about the progressive nature that we want, the world we want to live in, right? What is one of the things? And I can attest on a personal experience. I am rebuilding my credit over the last year and a half. I don't have the best credit. I've had to rebuild my credit, in fairness, right? Right now, both my cars died at the same time. I went out to look for an automotive loan. I'm getting an 8% rate. And that's after doubling my credit score. I'm not an 800, no. So I guess I didn't quite double it. I quartered it, whatever you want to call it, right? So I brought my credit score up 250 points, and I'm still getting an 8% loan on an auto loan, right? When everybody else is getting between 2.5 and 4.5 for an auto loan.
Well, so, I don't know if it's that low. Everybody's been getting a little bit higher. Did they tell you that the average is around 2 to 4? Because I heard that.
Yes, the average that they said for this month was 4.2. Okay, and if you look at a range, it's between this and that. And again, it all depends on how big of a loan do you want to take. Do you want to take a $50,000 loan out versus, I wanted a $5,000 loan, right? I don't want a $50,000 car. I just want a $5,000 car.
8% APR on a $5,000 loan. Yep. That's insane. That's like going to Western Mutual, going to those Western Sky like casino loan shark companies.
Exactly.
That's
and
terrible.
This is from Capital One. This is a Capital One investment loan for me, right? And then, I could find other ones. I'm sure I can go look for other ones. I'm not saying I can't.
I recommend credit unions. They're much more forgiving, but man, that's tough though. So basically, it's like you're comparing like how difficult it is to get a loan, and when your credit score is bad, and that's kind of like comparing to small business women trying to get loans.
Well, yes and no. So I won't relate it exactly because I think women have a harder time getting loans, like you said earlier, than men, right? They talk about, they talk about how that women are like a third less likely to get a loan than a man, and that they have to have better credit than men do to get a loan. Now, again, I'm not a woman, right? I'm not saying I am. I'm just telling you is right now in this situation, I've done this to get my credit where it's at. It's not the greatest, but it's definitely not the worst. It's a lot better than it was. I'm working very hard, and yet I'm still getting this. Now, think about it that way. If that's me and I'm a white male, what happens to women who have better credit than me?
Probably the same thing. Like they'd be in a better position than you, and they'd still get the kind of rates that you're mentioning. Yeah, that's that two-faced nature of that. Or they just won't get funding at all. Like the venture capital side of things. So like the people that are investors that basically want to invest in a company for 1% of the company, and they want that company to grow, and they'll reap the returns on the growth of the company. That is an area where small businesses, like let's say you got a successful small little business and you want to grow, and women just get overlooked as CEOs. For some reason, they just get overlooked. Some of the arguments they have is that once they reach a certain age, they have children, the company basically comes to a halt, and the women will stop going. And it's basically you're punishing women for being mothers, which I think society should be pretty happy about mothers and those types of things. We shouldn't punish women for that. But as far as business and capitalism is concerned, it's not very altruistic. And so like you hear about these kinds of stories where women in the business world get harmed basically. Does this group do anything with like I guess protecting women's rights further on past that financial stuff too?
They do a lot of work with, and they just recently partnered with the Michigan's Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame, right? They just recently partnered with them, but they do a lot to help fund women that are coming up, as organizers. They're coming up as women that are struggling to remain funded for whatever project they're working on, especially nonprofit type projects or profits that help minority segments. For example, like rape kits, for example, they use that as a big example as they are helping to fund fundraisers that will help do the backlog of rape kits in Detroit. They have a backlog of rape kits. Isn't that crazy, right?
It's
think about it this way.
It's you like millions.
Yeah. You
all over the world,
you have
country.
cancer, you have a tumor out, they figure out how they can get you tested to get you results within, a week, right? You get raped, they just go, you're on a backlog, 2 months down the road.
Oh, some people, some women don't hear back for years, and then they finally do hear back, and they've moved on with their lives, and they don't want to start that all over again. They don't want to trigger that new thing, and so a case never gets brought to court. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal on that backlog stuff. That's cool. I like the fact that this group is helping out with that. So it sounds like they have a pretty wide berth. They're not hyper specialized or so focused on one thing. I don't know. I think it's a great thing. If anybody is interested, we can try to point, but we also have some links that we'll have in the description if you want to read more.
Yep. And you can donate. There's a donation button in one of the links. You can look at their programs. You can look at the annual fund. There's a lot of different things that allow you to get involved with this organization. So check it out. Michigan Women Forward. Great organization. They are the Cellar Door Skeptics local organization in the spotlight for this week. But next, we want to talk a little bit about ranked choice voting.
Yay, statistics.
Pick your favorite color.
The ranked choice voting way.
Instead of voting for just one color, you get to rank your top 3.
Well, purple is the best, but if I can't have purple, I want blue. And if neither of those wins, I guess I can live with orange.
Now, let's count up everybody's votes.
Under ranked choice voting rules, it's not enough just to get the most votes. You need a majority.
More than 50% of the votes.
Purple's ahead, but it has only 7 votes.
It needs at least 11 to win.
So we eliminate the color in last place.
Sorry, Orange fans, we're going to your second choice.
2 more for green.
1 for purple.
But no color has 11 votes yet.
Still no majority.
Bye-bye,
blue.
1 more for purple.
4 for green.
And we have a winner.
The ranked choice voting way.
So tonight, the first topic that I wanted to talk about was ranked choice voting. And it's because there was an article I read off Reddit called Maine's Pioneering Ranked Choice Voting Election Likely to Catch On Nationwide, right? And so I thought about that because I thought, hold on a second. We haven't talked about this in a while. We have talked about this like a year ago, I think. But this wasn't on Michigan's ballot.
Did we talk about voting reform, or did we specifically talk about ranked choice voting?
We talked about voting reform, which included ranked choice voting.
I think ranked choice is great. I've seen ranked choice multiple times. Obviously, I would expect as an engineer and someone who had to go through statistics and probability and a bunch of more math than any normal human would really want to do. And I like ranked choice. I think it's a great way to try to find the most positively ranked item in a data set. And that's kind of what they're doing here, as you heard in the description that you just played. So basically, one of the ways I'd like to describe it is that if someone got 50% of their votes were 1s and 50% of their votes were 4s, if one person in that group got nothing, 1 through 4, obviously, if one person in a group got nothing but number 2 votes, they would win, because they would have, on average, more positive votes. And so that, to me, that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is find, because this could quickly turn into a very good way to create bipartisan selections, because I would see that a lot of people would choose first their Republican or the Democrat, and then they would probably go to a moderate or someone in a third party, and then go to their opponent in the Democrat Republican Party, and so you would see this natural mixing of parties, and it could create even a tripartisan setup in the United States. I think it's a good way to start moving things around a little bit and just kind of see where most of the people want their votes to go, as opposed to a majority or a minority specifically. Like it's not so binary, and it goes to recounting really easy.
Yeah. So Maine was the first state to elect a representative to Congress using ranked choice voting. So this is new, right? I'll be honest, I don't know enough about the background to know if this was something they voted on years ago that they're going to do this. If this is how they've always done it, but this is how this election ran for the Senate, congressional district there, right?
Yeah, they basically had a whole bunch of elections where they didn't have a majority winner. So they had a bunch of consecutive elections in a row where nobody had over 50%. So a bunch of 40s, 46, 43%, and they still won. And so people were they wanted something, a little bit more definitive, and it's just over and over and over. They weren't happy with it.
Yeah. And so this is how they did it, and I guess this is a live example of what we saw we heard on the clip a second ago. The Democrat Jared Golden, which is a weird name, that's kind of like Trump name, but I'll give him credit because he's at least blue, and he's not he's not red, and he's not an elephant here, so I'll give him a little bit of credit.
His skin's blue, like that one.
I would like that better than golden, because it's why would I want a golden guy running for office? It's we don't have that. But anyway, I digress. I'm sorry.
This is something that you need to know. There is a blue senator. I don't know if you know about this guy. He took for the Y2K thing. He was scared that it would be there would be no, I believe it was antibiotics or anything. And so he took this weird pill in medicine that one of the side effects is it turns your skin blue.
I did not know that, I guess. That's weird.
I think it's Stan Jones is the guy's name. I'm bringing him up right now. I'll post on our Facebook so everyone can see that. But no, this he's a blue senator. It's one of the most frightening things you may ever see.
Well, I've seen Donald Trump. I don't know if there can be anything more frightening than that. But anyway, going back to the article, he was declared the winner in Maine's 2nd District congressional seat, which had the ranked choice runoff, right? So on Thursday, 9 days after the election, Republican Representative Bruce held the popular vote by 2,632 votes over Golden in a 4-way contest after voters' first choices were counted. But because he only had 46% of the first round vote, the contest went to a ranked choice runoff. Right? So crazy. So he did win. The GOP candidate won, but they went and looked at, hey, hold on a second. He really only got 46% of the vote. Is he who we really want? You have to hit a 50% threshold. That's the requirement in the ranked choice voting. So they had to go back, eliminate, and then run it over again to see if he hit the 50%. That's the cool thing about this, is that no matter what happens, it eventually comes down to it goes 4 to 3 to 2. So in the end, it'll be between two people, and whoever has the most positive votes between those two people. Yep. And when they did all their runoffs and all the calculations, the voters broke by more than a 2-to-1 for Golden, who was declared the winner with 50.5% of the final vote. Now, while the ballots are being scanned, the GOP candidate filed a federal lawsuit to try to prevent the ranked choice count from taking place. And I had a post on my Facebook actually this week or late last week that, basically in Michigan, the GOP House of Representatives and the Senate right now in Michigan are trying to prevent the governor from having the same status that Rick Snyder had, the GOP governor who's now no longer the governor. Right? They're already trying to...
Well, he will be January. It's January 1st he swaps over.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to already stifle Gretchen Whitmer's power. But they didn't bother to do that when it was a GOP. And, I had somebody post on my Facebook, and they were like, well, that's just typical politics. There's no partisanship in this. The Democrats did the same thing. So I responded back, and I said, where? Tell me where you see this. I need to understand where in Michigan this happened. Well, in fairness, it was just on a federal level this happened. Well, hold on a second. We're just talking the state level here. Let's exclude federal politics for a second, for Christ's sake. I want to understand when the Democrats did this exact same thing. They haven't. This has not happened in Michigan. So here we have dirty politics being pushed through the GOP for the first time. So to me, this ranked choice voting, you're seeing somebody go, okay, hey, screw this. I'm going to sue them. We're going to stop this, right? Fine. But that's just dirty politics. If the citizens agreed this is how we should run it, then we should at least give it a fair chance and look at it. It does not harm anybody except for your political party if you don't get in, right? Now, I would like to say the Democrats would not do the same thing. I don't know. I honestly don't know if they would or they wouldn't. But to me, this almost seems like kind of like a backup to gerrymandering, right? So you have gerrymandering that comes in and screws everything up. And then all of a sudden you go, well, hey, how can we stop this? Well, hey, let's put ranked choice voting in. Maybe we can help balance out some of what's going on.
I like the idea of ranked choice voting, just kind of helping get the candidate that has the most positive votes. So that's the whole point here. It's like the most positive votes is the way that person's going to win. When it comes to like the legislature trying to restrict the governor, one of the only ones that I know of is in North Carolina. The Republicans tried to restrict the newly elected Democratic governor's powers, and that was actually struck down, it looks like, by a 3-judge state court panel in North Carolina. But either way, when it comes to these types of things, I couldn't find one where it was the Democrats doing the same kind of thing. But let's face it, Chuck Schumer and some of those guys out there would probably support at least some kind of gag on a strong Republican personality, somebody who's pushing real hard for a top position like the governorship. So if it was flipped, I would think that the Democratic Party would be, I guess, trying to do something along those lines. But once again, this is something that it shouldn't be an issue, because the checks and balances in most cases can help offset this, and it backs and forth. Like the limitations can only be moved so much. And that's one of the reasons why, like, when it is one party versus the other, like we talk about the freedom of speech and freedom of religion, those kinds of things. Once you start the small step, allowing one group to overpower another group, or one position to overpower another position, or one religion, vice versa, whatever, that it starts a snowball where each group, when they come in, they can vote to have more and more power for only their in-group. That's what we're scared about. So, like, we're hoping that this voting reform would help. In my opinion, I think this would help keep a more moderate, or at least it keeps some of the really, really wide left or right wing candidates kind of based towards the middle a little bit, so we could at least try to keep some kind of civility. Because I don't know if the idea that everything is shifting to the right is true. It feels like it. I can't, like, it's hard to quantify that the philosophy shifts, but it feels like everything's shifting to the right. And maybe the ranked choice stuff would help get some more of the younger people who are enthused, but maybe don't know exactly what's going on. Maybe could help get some of those out there to get some of these less known, but maybe they would get more 2s and 3s, and someone would get a whole bunch of 1s and 4s, like I said, and they could win an election.
Well, think about it this way. Okay, so this is how they did it. Essentially, voters receive a ballot. They rank the candidates in order for office in order of preference, right? So if a candidate wins a majority of the first choice voters' votes, the contest is over. It's done. Move on.
So if
they do not, the candidate with the fewest choices is obviously eliminated, and then each of his or her voters' second choices are added to the tallies of each of the remaining candidates. So think of it this way. Let's do the, I don't know, what's a good one? The governorship here in Michigan, right? So you had Bill Shitty.
Shitty.
Shitty. You had Bill Shitty. Do I have to, like, put an explicit tag because I said shit 3 times? Anyway.
Yeah, probably.
You had Bill Shitty. You had Gretchen Whitmer, who do we have? We had a Green Party and a Libertarian. Who are the Green Party and Libertarian candidate? Now we're going to sound a dumbass here.
Oh, I honestly do not know who the Green Party and Libertarian candidates were. I don't, in most cases, even remotely find those parties are something that would represent me. But in the end, I really don't like the idea of voting outside the party for things when in a situation where I really think supporting even the centrist leftist is going to be a good place to be. And I do think that Gretchen is more left than most people think she is. She was just running against a guy that was so far right that it made her kind of look like a normal person.
So the Libertarian nominee was Bill Gleaneau. I don't even know how to say his last name. Gelineau, right? Whatever. And the candidate for the Green Party was Jennifer Kurland, right? Okay, so let's just, those are our 3 votes. So those are the 4. So here's my rank. This is how I would rank them. Gretchen Whitmore, number 1. Jennifer Kurland, number 2. Bill, whatever his last name is for Libertarian Party, number 3. And I put Bill Schuette as number 4. Because Bill Schuette is always going to get number 4 in my place because he is that awful of a human. I actually wish I didn't even have to rank him because I hate him that much, right? And that's actually a question we could talk about, with rank choice voting. Can you eliminate and not even put a 4th candidate? I don't know how that works. Anyway, so the idea would be is if, Gretchen won by quite a bit of a margin, so it was a no contest. In this case, Gretchen Whitmore, boom, done and over with. We don't have to do a runoff vote. We don't have to look at it. But in this case, for me, right, and if everybody else voted the same way, let's say a lot of the people are like, okay, well, let's vote for Gretchen, but I'm going to put the Green Party as second, and then some people are like, well, I'm really Green Party. Like, I have friends that are like, I really just cannot vote for Gretchen for only the pure fact that I really identify with this person more. And same with the Libertarian candidate. But if I don't get them, I would like to, have Gretchen in, right? Yeah. I like this, again, and I was very conflicted to begin with, but I like this idea just because it allows for you to give your personal vote to begin with. It allows you to vote your conscience, but then at the exact same time will give you the fact that you can vote for a second candidate that, hey, yeah, I don't agree with them, but I would rather have them than shitty, because everybody doesn't like a shitty life, and nobody wants a shitty state, and nobody wants to deal with shitty government rules, because that's the way shitty would run. And so, in that case, I would feel better about people voting for a third party in the pure aspect that if the GOP candidate won by more than 2%, we have to concede that he was the more popular candidate. But if he's winning by less than 1%, right, or less than the 2%, and they have this runoff, the person that did vote for the third party can turn around and be like, well, I voted for the Democrat, and they're going to take all those votes and add them to them. I guarantee you, Hillary Clinton would have been president of this United States if we had this exact same feature, because people just couldn't get behind her. But people...
She would have been number 2.
She would have been number 2. You would have added to it. Nobody would have put Donald Trump as number 2. Nobody voted Libertarian. They're like, well, I'll take Donald Trump. They would have gone third party before they went to Donald Trump.
Well, there were a bunch of people that were like former Democrats that were like, I'm going to vote third party because I can't support Hillary because of her past and all this other stuff. So they would have voted either, Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. They would have put one of those two up. And then Hillary probably would have been second or even third. But like, I really think that it probably would have been second, because like the Democrats, I believe, would have gone much more heavily for Jill Stein and the Green Party and the woo-woo stuff. And I think that the Republicans, who were kind of wishy-washy or center-moderate Republicans, would have gone Gary Johnson, which a lot of them did. Even a ton of centrists did. So like, Hillary Clinton's going to show up in there higher than she would have just doing the binary vote against Trump.
So the only question I have out of this, so I think you and I are to some agreement on this, right?
We're in agreement, basically.
What's the benefit for that third party candidate, right? Is there a benefit? So think of it this way: if we got to convince, and we could just pick the Michigan, gubernatorial race, right? If we had to go to third party voters and be like, all right, let's compromise here. Let's talk about, yeah, you want to vote third party. Here's a better system that allows for the majority candidate to win, period, but allows you to voice your own opinion. How does this benefit them? Do you think that there would be more third-party candidates that would get higher percentages? I mean, again, in fairness, if it wasn't hey, I really need a Democrat in office because I can't have a shitty life anymore or a shitty walk.
Well, I think right out of the gate, like there wouldn't be much of a change because I still think people would be one. Well, it's, kind of. So here's the thing. Remember what I said earlier about like in the same situation that you described. So like if you're a Democrat, you're voting Democrat at the top, and then third parties in the middle, and then the Republican at the bottom. So what that does is unintentionally elevate the positions of both the third parties. If you're in, let's say there's 4 electors, and if that's the case, when it comes into the first one, if the first round doesn't win, in the second round there will always be more third-party votes than anyone would have had in the first round, and so it's naturally going to elevate a second or a third party, or a third party or a fourth party into the entire system. So because I would put in most cases the Republican, like you did, at the bottom, or at least lower than I would a Green Party or
he's
a
always going to go at the bottom. Period.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Every
Like,
Republican will go
cases,
below Libertarian. I will take my chances in a Libertarian world versus
there
a Republican world.
Well, it depends if you're in some poor places throughout this country. There were some people who were running that were like independent, outright, complete racists that were running on like the white nationalist or white supremacist platform. They get the bottom when a Republican.
Right, fair enough.
You know what I mean? So, but either way, like you're gonna vote either your party, Democrat or Republican, and then you're gonna swap. And so the Democrat or Republican at top, Democrat or Republican at the bottom, and then in the middle you're gonna fill that with your middle votes. Those middle votes now, which are always never counted because of the system we have, would now have more weight in the second and third rounds if there were any extra runoff rounds. And so like this is really important if we wanted to drive this country away from the binary two-party system, because it would be a requirement. You know what I mean? Like it would be a requirement that these you would have to count those votes that typically don't even, that they're considered a wasted vote or they're a tossed away vote. It would matter hugely who you voted for second. It really would. It would make a big difference. So like I love the idea of this because I just don't like the idea of 1 and 0s. I don't like the two-party solution. I would love to see more diversity. I would love to even see a parliamentary system adopted in the United States where we had multiple governments creating coalitions to have majorities. Like, it's really difficult to govern that way. Europe is a great example of that, but it shouldn't be easy for one party to go in there and just start chipping away at basic human rights. Like it should be really, really hard. And I think the European system, as much as the American checks and balances work, I think this ranked voting system would help at least keep our checks and balances in, to keep the idea of a supermajority coming in and chipping away at minority rights.
And that could be true. I think I agree with you, Hanna. I think that would be a better situation. So if we got rid of the nationalist party.
The Nationalist Party?
Yeah, if we got rid of the crazy people that are KKK and white supremacists.
Oh, yeah.
Would you always put the GOP at the bottom?
Yeah, well, I was just saying, like, if let's say the GOP was returned back to like a traditional American conservative position, which was kind of sort of big business, but very conservative when it came to the environment, which is weird. I mean, people have a hard time believing that Teddy Roosevelt was like a major conservationist. But I mean, if the GOP was brought back towards the center and to a pre-Tea Party world, which was basically just pro big business, then I could see them being less cancerous and less toxic. And then the same for the Democratic Party, if they would pull their hands back a little bit from the globalist tendencies they have and big business tendencies they have and concentrate more on the union worker, then they would move a little bit towards the middle as well. And then we could have all these other groups and all these other parties that would be outside the norm, that would capture those extreme portions. Maybe they could have the bottom. They could take turns. You know what I mean? Like whatever. I would love to have, two parties of reason, and then, all your I guess, eccentric perspectives in their own special groups.
Exactly. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. And I think we promised something, Hanna. I think we did. We promised something, because guess what time it is? It is time for I don't know. What time is it?
It's science time. It's science time. It's science time.
That's right, folks. It's science time because we haven't done science time in like a month and a half. So I thought it would be a good exercise in our ability to keep our promises and talk about science again. And what better? So I want to go back to the old Cellar Door Skeptics days when we had more time than we seem to have now. And Hanna was doing what was called a Crispr update, right? He had his science update, and I had my rants update. But he had his science update, and it was really good because he focused on this one series called Crispr.
Yep.
And the funny thing is, we do these. We haven't done the science segment in forever, right? And then I play a song that Hanna can't even hear. So our intro song for the science segment, Hanna can't even hear. He's sitting here wondering why all of a sudden I'm just sitting in front of my mic, all quiet. You know, I'm just sitting here very, very, very quiet compared to what I normally am. And he's sitting here. I think he was scratching his head. And he's like tapping the camera a little bit, and then he like started texting me a message saying, "Or did you glitch, dude?" But in reality, I just had to play the intro song because I love that song so much. But tonight we wanted to talk about CRISPR, right? You know, I mentioned that earlier, and I thought it was a good topic to come back to because there was a more recent discovery. And I'll be honest, this was kind of new. All of a sudden, I was like, "Holy crap! They have a new discovery, Hanna." Is this a new discovery, or is somebody just trying to capitalize off of something we already talked about like 6 months ago? And he's like, no, I'm pretty sure this is new. So tell me, Hanna, a little bit about why the new splice tool can massively expand immune system's cancer-fighting repertoire.
Well, the whole idea of CRISPR-Cas9, like the Cas9 is a tool. It's part of a bacteria part of their genome that allows for the sectioning of genetic materials in specific locations. They can program it to find a spot in the genome and cut it. And the whole idea using this, immunotherapy and genetic immunotherapy to cure cancer, gene therapy they've been calling it. And so CRISPR, they've been looking for new ways to do it because there's a bunch of different ways to use it. Cas9 is the most popular one. It's the easiest one to use. You can literally tell the corporation that sells these particular packages, you can order what you want. You can tell them, I want this to this and this, and they'll send it to you, and you can put it in the system. You need a fully research grade experimental laboratory in order to do it. Like the idea and the stories that you've heard of people using CRISPR in garages and in kitchens is absurd by the most massive margins. So this whole thing here, though, what Slice is allowing them to do is to perform genome-wide screens in which way they mutate the gene in the genome to see which genes have the biggest effect on cellular behavior that they're interested in. So kind of like amplifying or zooming in on what they want. Because one of the things that you run into is everybody's genome is kind of different, and we don't have like a perfect way to zoom in on everything. Instantly sequence your genome and know exactly what you want. This is still a new area, and so like finding new ways to kind of be like, this is my problem. This is an issue that I'm having, and then they can say, well, this is a really good tool we have to find all of the genes that may be part of that problem, and then you can kind of highlight them to pick them up and get them, because you need to know what you need to do, and then you design the CRISPR tool to go in and fix that. That's the whole idea, is that they're hoping to be able to create this new slice system in which they change one gene at a time. And then they can basically in each cell they can change like a cascading effect, and so that change slowly works its way through the system, the person that they're trying to heal. And so it's new information. It makes it a little bit more smart, a little bit better at finding and doing what they want it to do. And every time we have a new discovery like that, it's a big deal. I mean, it really is. So they design the tool, and hopefully before they have to design the tool, they can use this new stuff to kind of find what they need to design the tool to do in the first place.
Yeah, and for me, the big thing that drew me, right, was that they're able to perform genome-wide screens in which they can mutate every gene in that genome, right? For me, that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was just, that's crazy, right? I looked at that and I was like, so wait, they're able to simulate this in some way, shape, or form, you know, to look
they
at...
pull it out of your body, basically.
Yeah, and to look at the cell's behavior to gauge which is going to have the biggest effect. That's huge. That's like saying... It's like if GMOs were going to be like, all right, we're going to take the plant's genes and we're going to like just pull them virtually and we're going to implant out these different genomes to match this and see which one will grow better and which one has bad mutations. And I hope to God this stuff goes into plants, right? You know, like to some extent, right? Because think about it this way, you know, they've created these GMO, you know, corns, right? And different, you know, wheat plants that can help third world countries. If we could figure out how to get other plants in these third world countries and help them rotate crops like we do in America, you know, you don't plant corn in the same field for 20 years. You just don't do that. You plant corn in a different field, you rotate your crops. There's a logic behind this. So think about it this way. If we could give that all of a sudden to third world countries because we're able to modify the genetics of different existing fruits or even vegetables, that could help them maintain an even healthier access, grow faster, sustain their society with more produce in a heat environment that can't really grow much of anything. I mean, when it's 110 degrees out, what can you, no water, 110 degrees, what do you really grow? Cactuses and vines? I don't even know if you can grow vines, you know. So if they could take that and apply it to food, think about what they could change. Now, in this aspect, this is great because they're looking at it in a cancer setting. And what is one of the biggest killers in America, you know, or even in the world, I guess?
Well, that the cancer obviously is a huge place, and so like essentially the CRISPR abilities, so like the ability to edit the genome is kind of like the basis for like the plant and the food and the scenario that you had there, like drought-resistant plants and stuff like that. What Slice specifically is a specific platform that allows scientists to model the interaction between immune cells and tumor microenvironment. So like they're really concentrating specifically on being able to like use a simulation. So this could potentially be used in plant environments where there is some kind of thing, some kind of aggressor that is attacking the plant genome, the plant's genetic structure, the plant cells themselves, and they want to try to find a way to fight that attack, that aggressor. Then they could create these models, the simulation models, and they could see, okay, this is what we think would happen, and this is how we can design a tool, or we can adjust the genome in the plant to fight that. The same kind of thing here. So what they're doing is they're looking at T cells and things that are affected by the HIV and the AIDS virus, where they are part of your immune system that are specifically designed to fight off things. Well, some diseases manipulate T cells and suppress T cells and basically make your immune system inept and unworking. Well, what they've been able to do is they've been able to find the interaction between your immune system and the tumor microenvironment, the cancerous tumor, and they can essentially try to see what will happen if they make this adjustment and then institute that into that tumor microenvironment. Can those new cells that they've modified destroy, attack, and resist all of the cancer cells, or do they lose? So that combination didn't work. Let's try a different one. And then there's kind of that blunt force attack. So when you hear about a brute force attack, when you hear about someone saying we're going to hack into your computer, but you don't have a password maximum input, so that you can just do an infinite number of password inputs. And so there's computers that'll just do 100 million inputs in a minute. And so there's an amount of time that'll pass before all of the possible combinations in a computer keyboard can be entered in a computer, and then you'll break into that computer. The same idea is here. This is an iterative process. They're able to do a bunch of tests, try to find the right one, and they can simulate and say eventually maybe reduce the amount of time it takes to find the right tool for the job to stop someone's cancer, and all in simulation, but using genetic information, using someone's genes. Like, this is really cool because like it's specializing the medicine specifically for the person, which is like the new, they call it like specialized medicine, I think it is, or personalized medicine.
Exactly, and that's the best thing here, right? Is that they're able to do that. They're able to start to focus specifically on one individual person, right, and their cancer. Because think about it this way: cancer affects everybody differently. We don't know. Cancer is not like this patented thing where, oh, you got breast cancer, it's going to do the exact same thing to your body and react the exact same way. No, there's so much complexity to this. That's why we can't cure cancer as easy as everybody thinks, right? And there is no polio vaccine that like a vaccine that they know of that people can just take that would essentially deal with cancer, which some people believe is a natural byproduct of cell aging and mutation. Yeah, and you think about it this way, right? You have all this, we have all of that. And the big thing here is that if we were able to do this, we would be able to allow for people to get treatment more beneficially than they are right now. I mean, look at our friend Jeremiah and his daughter Samantha. I mean, just look at that side of it. We would be able to allow for her to be able to be looked at a specialized treatment for just her that isn't shoving coffee up your asshole, and it would be so much better than what we have now. And I guess I don't know.
There could be possibilities for experimental drugs and things. There's some stuff that some parents and some people who have cancer, let's say they're older people, so they have full autonomy for their future, would be willing to do and test certain types of medical possibilities using gene therapy or something like that, because it's really hard to get the okay from the populace at large to do some of these kinds of exams and tests. But someone who's on their deathbed, like there's a guy who has a disease where he will die in a very, very specific period of time, and so he's doing a head transplant. I don't know if it's happened yet, but they're doing a full spinal cord transplant, and he's like, you got like a 60% chance, 80% chance of dying, and he's like, whatever, I'll be dead in 6 months anyways. Like, what's the point? Let's do this. And like the same kind of thing happens with this genome therapy, is that the people that are on the edge would be willing to sacrifice themselves for science often, because the death that they have is almost 100%. It's almost certain. In some cases, it is absolutely certain. Glioblastoma, which is what Samantha had, like that's no joke. And so this is really, really at the forefront, and we could see some potential major things that are happening here. This slice tool could be very useful. And was there anything else that you want to do with Slice? Because I have another thing with CRISPR that I want. When you mentioned that you wanted to do CRISPR for the science segment, I was like, oh man, I've got a little bit of a downer, a Debbie Downer moment for CRISPR.
No, I don't have anything else, but I do think that we should take a really quick break here so I can refresh my drink. And when we come back, we'll be talking about your downer CRISPR segment. We'll be right back with more Cellar Door Skeptics.
Like what you're hearing? Check out more Cellar Door Skeptics every week right here on Spreaker and iTunes. Make sure you come back and check out new episodes with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna. And always, remember, prepare for the revolution.
Welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. This is your host with the mostest, the readiest, the mostest, the hostess with the mostest. I don't know. I screwed that whole thing up. But
we'll just call you Captain EST. Whatever word people think of you, they'll add an EST, and that's what you got.
The mostest, the hostess, the awesomest. Yeah, that works for me. So you were saying before the break that you have a Debbie Downer for us. And I don't like to call it a Debbie Downer because it kind of feels very sexist to me.
I'm sure it is. And if anyone knows the origin of that common phrase, let us know, because I'm sure it's terrible, and I'll probably never say it again. There's a thing on NPR, they call it the more you know, or not the more you know. That's what they say, and they talk about different phrases and words that we use. It's from University of Michigan. It's really cool. It makes you think twice about some of the things that you say. Anyways, CRISPR has a bit of a downer. So in early January, there was a study that came out that said that a large number of people, some 65-ish% of people, have an immune system response that would immediately attack and destroy CRISPR-Cas9 if it entered into their systems. And people were like, well, then why are we doing this? If this gene therapy, this tool, we send it into your system, into your bloodstream to try to edit your genes, and your immune system naturally will destroy that tool, it becomes a race in time. Can that tool get in and do what it needs to do before it just gets obliterated? And so people were trying to figure out whether or not this is just a one-off fluke. And unfortunately, there's an update in October, and it says the immune system of a large majority of people could already be primed to attack CRISPR-Cas9, the gene therapeutics that a lot of people are pushing forward as, kind of this new future of medicine. And the whole idea is that the bacteria they're using for the Cas9 editing tools, they're not that uncommon, and they interact with and have interacted throughout our entire evolutionary history with humans and hominid species and our ancestors. And what they're saying is that our antibodies, our immune systems, already have some of the setups. And so basically the way we talk about, when you get a immunization is they send in a bunch of either neutered or broken down cells for a virus or bacteria or whatever they're immunizing you from, and so that your body can attack it, read its genetic information, then create a key. And when your body sees that thing come in, it puts the key in and it says, this is what this is, and it releases that specific type of immuno response to destroy that specific thing. And the more keys you have, the more you are immune to a variety of stuff. Well, the whole idea of using CRISPR-Cas9 is to edit the genome, but there's a good chance, in this case, upwards to 96% possibly of humans that have that key already that would attack the CRISPR-Cas9 tool as it went through your body. The researchers found that 96% of the people in the study had the T-based cell immunity against Cas9, and 85% had antibodies against it. So these are higher rates than what that other test had in January, which is freakish because it's even worse than the January one. But what they're saying is that some of these new tools, like that slice tool and some of the other things, like, they're necessary. We need to evolve past the Cas9 editing tool and then find something that might be a little bit more rare. Use a bacteria that's more rare to hopefully be able to bypass our immune system response, because this tool may be amazing, but it may only work in a few people, which kind of renders it almost useless when it comes to curing things like. Yeah, it kind of, aside from the science learning that we can edit genes as on our own, on our own accord and at our own free will, that is really good to know and learn. But as far as a practical use for humans, this may not be the right tool. And so there's kind of a, what do we do here? Do we keep going with CRISPR-Cas9 to prove the science, and then hopefully we'll find a new CRISPR-Cas14 or something that will be able to actually be used in the human test subjects when they finally are open to it? Or will we do Cas9 across the board and just have it be a success, and they find some way to suppress the immune system while they're doing the work, and then turn it back on after your genes have been edited? So this is a warning to people who are thinking that this is, the new elixir, right? That magical elixir from Sweeney Todd that could save everyone, could cure everything, and make everything wonderful again. So
wasn't his elixir killing people? So I don't know. I don't think we want that.
Most elixirs do kill people.
No. Not my elixir. My elixir is Jack Daniels and Coke. Good for the body, good for the brain, bad for hangovers, which actually is bad for the brain and the body in the long run. But I digress. Well,
one of my favorite elixirs was the radon elixir. I don't know if you're familiar with the radon problem that they had for a long time. They used radon as an illuminary chemical on dials in airplanes in World War II.
Yep.
And the way they put it on was they would dip a brush in water, and they would lick the brush. The operators were, and they would get it to a perfect point. And then they would dip it in radon, and they would draw a line until the radon was gone on the dial. And then once that was the case, they would dip it in water, then they would lick the brush again and dip it in radon and repeat. And all the people that were doing this got mouth cancer and died. Like a huge, like some 90, 80%, like just a massive number of people died from it. And then people used to drink radon because it would give you kind of this euphoria and it would make you feel better while it was killing you. There's a history of all kinds of weird chemicals where people were taking. They were lead elixirs. So when I hear the word elixir, I think of danger.
All right, fair enough. I think maybe next week, Hannah. So your homework for the week is to find all the unique elixirs, and I think next week we should talk about them. I think that would be fun. I did not know that people drank radon. Like I didn't know that. I didn't know it could give you a euphoria. Maybe I should try this.
Well, I mean, it depends on if you want to see your kids get married or not.
Well, I would prefer to. Well, I prefer at least to see them grow up. I don't care if they get married or not. But
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. See your kid's future then. You don't want to do it the Ebenezer Scrooge way, where you get drug around by people in chains.
or the ghosts of future present. I don't want the guy in the cloak and the hood and the sickle. I don't need that.
Well, we've kind of done the elixirs a little bit when we talked about homeopathy and basically people thinking that taking water pills is going to cure your cancer. I can't think of anything more dangerous than stopping your FDA-sanctioned cancer medications because Joel Osteen told you that this one guy's got a good deal on a placebo pill in an alleyway somewhere. Like that sounds to me like the natural evolution of elixir in science, because science can look at stuff when you put it in a pill. But if there's nothing in the pill, then it just comes down to just whether or not you believe it and whether or not you actually had the disease that you think you do.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think it's a little scary, where they're going with this CRISPR thing right now. And I'll be honest, I was very excited, and I still am excited by gene cell editing. I think, I think we should be cautionary, and I think it should take a step back. And you asked the question of
skeptical.
Yeah, you asked the question of should we continue with the Cas9 or should we look at a different formula? And I think that I'll be honest, I think that they should stop right there what they're doing. I guess I don't know, because I'm kind of torn, right? In my industry, right? I work right now. I'm implementing a new warehouse management system, right? And this morning, my partner and I came up with this idea to do something amazing with a system. We're like, oh, hey, we could circumvent and get the customer what he wants without, too much hassle. Let's try these other things. And so I presented it to, the operators and the manager, and they were like, well, hold on a second. I don't like that. This isn't exactly how we had it. But it's going to do the same thing. Well, we don't care. It's not exactly how we had it. Well, I'm not going to waste my time researching this and doing this if you guys are going to reject it. I'm either going to look for another solution or we're going to have to go over your head and have a larger meeting about this. And so I contacted my partner and he was like, look, man, think about it this way. Do you want to know if this works? And I was like, yeah, kind of. He's like, do you have a little bit of extra time today? Does it really matter if you finish what they want? If they don't like this, what does it matter? Do you have a little extra time to try this out? Yeah, that's a fair point, man. I'm going to go try this out. I tried it out. It worked. I demonstrated it to them, mapped it out on the board, like drew pictures and stuff on the whiteboard because I'm addicted to whiteboards, by the way. And
they're so great. I love whiteboards.
They're the most amazing thing in the world. And this is the best. I got to clip this part right here. I wish we were recording video right now. So I could clip this part right here, put whiteboards in the background, and put like our faces being drawn on them or something cutesy like that. But it's
Nah,
my
dude,
partner.
you got to do the weatherman thing, like where you
There you
stand
go.
in front of it.
Yeah, my partner thinks it's weird that I like whiteboards so much, but like when we have a meeting, I immediately get up and go to the whiteboard. Like it's just a habit of mine. Like I draw on the whiteboard. Like and we in
Okay,
our,
Chris is gonna talk now. Someone give him a marker.
Yep, and it is. It's funny because as soon as I pick up a marker at Steelcase, everybody would be like, "Oh no, there goes Chris. He's going to that whiteboard." He's like, "This is going to be a 20-minute conversation." I'm like, "No, I just got to draw it out for you." They're like, "We don't care." I was like, "No, I have to do that for you." What?
Are you associated with that smell, the dry erase marker smell? Like,
no, I'm not.
I smell Chris around here somewhere.
But no, it's funny when they walk into a conference room, you could tell if I've worked in there because they'll be like, it says save in big letters with like a square around it and underlined. And you know, when I went to the new, and now we're tangenting, but
of course we are.
In Steelcase, everybody respected the word save. You didn't erase Chris's work on save. I go to Holland, right? And I write something on the board. I come in the next day. I'm like, where's everything I wrote? They're like, I don't know. Did you take a picture of it? I'm like, no. They're like, well, you should have taken a picture of it. That's what we do. I was like, I wrote save. It says save. And they're like, oh, that's what that meant? We just erased it. I'm like, it's a save. What does save mean? What does save mean to you people? Like, Christ's sake.
I used to have to take photos of stuff when we did it in engineering school all the time as well. The reason I love dry erase boards is because I used to go through reams of paper solving problems and doing math homework. And instead, I would just use a small little dry erase board. And when I finally got it right, then I would write it properly on a single sheet of paper. And I would use one sheet of paper to answer a problem. And I would
look at the environmentalist in you, my friend.
I know.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You should be the poster boy.
If my friend Gordon, if he ever listens to any of our shows, or particularly this one, he's the one that got me doing it. He got his math PhD not too long ago. He's teaching in Korea right now. The dude is living. He is an absolute intellectual giant, and I absolutely loved what he does. So like he was like a huge influence on that. He was like, dude, dry erase. This is where it's at. And I'm like, you're full of it. And he showed it to me, and I was like, this is the greatest thing I had ever seen for school. Because, like, you don't waste – like, I would have to steal, like, piles of paper so I could do my homework. Because in engineering, each problem takes a whole sheet of paper. And, like, you do the problem and you do it wrong 3 or 4 times. Like, before long, one night, you could use 15, 20 sheets of paper. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. I used to be very skeptical of whiteboards. Our Crispr conversations turned into a whiteboard conversation. But
yeah, I don't know.
You know, I used to be skeptical of them for a long time. And, my wife has them in the house. She writes like projects on them, and I always hate it because like I don't like looking at that board because that's a to-do list for me. Or if I'm not good enough at it, it's a to-do list for her or for something for her to complain about, and I have to do something else instead. But it's funny now. I want the whiteboards, and my daughter loves whiteboards. Like it's funny. Like it must be a genetic thing.
We'll find out that like the stuff that's inside the markers is like reduced and boiled humans or something, and then we'll be like, oh man.
It'll be like, unless it's Donald Trump. I mean, if they like take a finger from him every month and they like make a bunch of pens out of it, I'm okay with that.
No, they all come from Saudi Arabia. It's where they liquefy all the atheists that they kill. And they put them in the markers, and we.
No.
I know.
Oh, you just ruined it. Stop trying to ruin dry erase boards for me. Stop.
It'll never happen. They'll be amazing forever because there's no way that's true. So
okay,
yes. Back to CRISPR was awesome. It's we still have to be skeptical. What is next on our dry erase board of happiness?
Well, I thought we should do some quick saves for the night.
Right.
We're at an hour 7. And I'm going to start with my quick save because I have a little bit of a clip that everybody gets to hear. I do. I got another clip. I got a clip. It's like, let's go to the clipboard. Instead of 2 weeks ago, it was let's go to the state board. Let's look at the results. I'm no longer with Blitzer and that. I'm going to say, let's go to the clip.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker. Your dog had an accident.
What the hell? What kind of accident?
Well, I took this here axe and I accidentally cut him. There's no such thing as an evil turkey. Oh wait, I lied. Ha!
I'm gonna drink your blood like cranberry sauce, meanie.
Thanks, Daddy. I'd die if it wasn't for you.
More like, you will die if it was for me. Now that's what I call foul play.
God damn, Cheryl! That coffee tastes like shit! What'd you do, take a dump in it?
As a matter of fact, I sure did.
Gobble gobble, motherfucker! Now that's what I call foul play.
Ha ha! So my quick save of the week is a little comical, and I guess as we close the show out to talk about our quick saves, or we close through this, there's this movie. There's actually two of them, but the beginning movie is something I was very skeptical of, and I don't remember how long ago I saw this movie. I think it's about 4 years ago. My friend Zombie Joe, he goes, Chris, have you ever... We like to watch horror movies. It's a thing that runs in our circle, right? We both really like horror movies, and we like to watch things we've never watched before. Well, he gets very excited because I haven't seen as many horror movies as he has, and he's seen a lot of horror movies, like probably like 5 times that I have. His
name is Zombie Joe.
It is. In fairness, his name's Zombie Joe.
He has to have seen more horror movies than you. That's required.
And in fairness, I think I had him on on our old show, Atheist Analysis. I think there was one night I was supposed to hang out with him, and I was drinking, and then I was like, oh, crap, we got to do a show. I forgot about our live show. And so I was like, hey, you want to join the show? And like he did. He sat in my kitchen, and he joined the show for half the show. I'll have to have him back on. I'll have to have him back on. He's a great character to have on the show. He's we definitely disagree on some viewpoints, but we both love horror movies. Anyway, 4 years ago, I believe it was, we like to watch holiday-themed movies. I really like holiday-themed movies, especially Christmas ones. But Thanksgiving, how many times do you see a holiday-themed horror movie around Thanksgiving? I don't think you do. And I thought
usually historical documentaries on the actual.
Yeah, and you're right. And last year, we talked about how Christopher Columbus was an outrageously horrible individual. How I had to convince my uncle to stop calling me Christopher Columbus when he saw me because he thought it was just an innocent joke. And I'm like, no, I actually hate that guy. I think he is an awful person. And then his replacement at first was stuff. Hey, how about Napoleon? And I'm like, no, I don't like that guy either. Just be Christopher. I don't know. Just say, call me Christopher. God damn it. Just call me Christopher for Christ's sake, But anyway, back to the horror movie discussion.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. The why this really, really cheeseball movie is your quick save.
It is. This movie, the first movie was made on a $3,500 budget. I'm dead serious. The original movie was made on a $3,500 budget. And it's about this evil turkey that comes to life and kills people. And I'm sitting there, I was like, okay, dude, well, that might be funny.
This is like a Patton Oswalt thing where it's the bed that kills people, deathbed, the bed that kills people. I don't know if you're familiar with that skit. He has a bit where he talks about the screenplay. This guy wrote a screenplay, Deathbed, the bed that eats people. And he completed the screenplay. And he's like, I've been working on screenplays. I can't finish them. And this guy was like, I'm making this movie. I'm going to complete this screenplay. That sounds like it. For anyone that's interested, we're going to have the IMDb link, and it's got a trailer in the IMDb link, so you'll be able to watch it. And you can see all $3,500 of this movie being spent. All of it. Every bit of it. Because the rest of it has to have been free. That's my assumption.
Maybe. But we'll put it this way. So the idea behind the movie is this evil turkey comes back to life and finds a group of kids and goes after them and attacks them. And at one point during the movie, the turkey kills the sheriff, which is one of the main characters' father, and cuts his face off and just wears the skin part of his face over his turkey head. Right? And she thinks it's a real human. She's like, oh, it's hi, Dad. How are you? I'm glad you didn't hurt me, Dad. And he's like, ho, 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 ho. You don't even know I'm wearing your father's face. Ho, ho, ho. You know, it's like, and you're like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous.
Does the turkey actually talk? Does it say
Oh, yeah.
things?
Oh, yeah, the turkey
my
talks.
God.
They can hear the turkey.
Dude.
Like, they think in fairness that that's her father. They go into the house, they get a sandwich, you know, they're doing research on how to kill an evil turkey, and he's in the house this whole time.
This is less realistic than Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Oh, absolutely, my friend. This is off the charts unrealistic.
Because the Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 holds my personal his sequel to Halloween is like the most fantastical fantasy freak out, and this is even doing better than that. Like, this is like Garbage Day. I don't know if you ever saw that. The Garbage Day. Oh man. Either way, there's a bunch of really bad B movies, and so like this is kind of your thing. Like, this is like the movie itself knows it's bad, it's having fun with it, or is the movie like serious?
Oh no, it has fun with itself. I mean, okay,
cool.
I played the clip, and in the clip, it's about the sheriff before he gets a divorce, right? At the beginning of the movie, he's like, my coffee tastes like shit. What did you do, put shit in it? And his wife was like, yeah, I put shit in it, and by the way, I want a divorce. And you're like, what? Why would? And it shows a coffee pot with literal shit in it. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, seriously, how does that even happen? Who thought of that?
Did Austin Powers steal that scene?
Because this is definitely after Austin Powers.
Oh, okay.
Is that in Austin Powers?
Yeah, in the first Austin Powers, Fat Bastard, they get his stool sample and they're like boiling it and testing it, and he pours a glass of it like it's
that's
coffee,
right,
and he drinks it, and they're like, this tastes like shit, and then like, that's because it is, and he's like, oh,
that's hilarious. Okay, I forgot about that.
He's like, it's a bit nutty, like the whole yeah. So okay, so maybe these guys stole from Austin.
They did. Obviously, they did. But you know. This
sounds
movie,
like a fun movie, though. If you go to this movie, you're looking to have fun. You're not looking to be scared.
It is. You're right. There's nothing scary about it. The acting is very low budget. The recording is very low budget. It's got some pretty cool special effects. But, and again, it's a little weird. But, you know, like, I mean, okay, how about this? For example, one scene, the turkey basically, like, there's this girl and she's waiting for her boyfriend to come over. He kills the boyfriend. He comes over. She's all half naked, and the turkey starts having sex with her. And he's using a gravy-flavored condom. Like, they make a point to point out that he's got a gravy-flavored condom, right? And then he starts having sex with her, and then she turns around and she gets all freaked out, like, oh my God, a turkey's, like, fucking me. And then he kills her. And like, that's not really that funny to some extent, but it's, at the other side of it, you're like, this is so unrealistic that it's not even like, what the hell's going on? Like, who thought of this? Who smoked that much pot that they just like, oh, this is going to be genius. Like, who did that? Or was it cocaine? Maybe it was a cocaine thing. I don't know. The reason
sounds like this might be shrooms. That sounds a little bit like mushrooms.
it might be. The reason it's my quick save is because I'll watch those types of movies with my friend, right? He always brings them over, and Zombie Joe's like, yeah, hey, you're going to love this. And then, like, half the time, I don't like it. The other half of the time, I really don't. It's okay. And then every once in a while, there's, like, a really amazing movie. This one...
So you get, like, a Mystery Science 3000 thing where you guys yell at the movie the whole time?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes we're just too stoned to do it, too. But sometimes, yeah, we yell at the movie, and usually my buddy Zoe comes over, and so like it's like the three of us, and Zoe and I are usually in the same boat. Most of the time, we haven't seen those movies. And that was the same way with Thankskilling. But as soon as I watched Thankskilling, I was like, this is literally the best Thanksgiving horror movie I've ever seen in my life. And I know there's not very many of them, but this is literally like, I almost watch this one or the sequel every year. It's just a thing. It comes on or I watch it. I've actually got plans to go up to my buddy Zoe's house. We're gonna go hunting, kind of, and
wow.
Well, we're gonna go hunting, but I really don't care if I kill a deer, and I'm really just gonna sit there, and I'm not actually gonna shoot anything. And
Brandy in the woods.
I'm not even gonna do that. I'll be sober.
That's what a few people used to do. Is just like,
I'll be sober.
They would go up and hunt. And they would take one guy I know, he had been hunting for years and years and years, and he would take his gun out in the woods, and he was like he would come in and be like, "Hey, did you see anything out there?" And he goes, "I didn't even load a bullet in my gun. I don't care. I just wanted to go sit in the woods and be away from everyone and be in the quiet for a while and just be with nature."
And that's
so,
gonna be me.
Some people like that concept, just to kind of like get away from everything and just like, I don't know, decompress. And hunting can be that too. I mean, you don't actually have to like bird watchers, like deer watchers. There are people that do that. So I don't know. Like you could call it hunting, but maybe you could just say, I want to go out and just like watch nature. That's a cool thing to do too.
Yeah, and we're gonna do that. And I'm gonna bring my Thankskilling and Thankskilling 3 movies up, and we're gonna watch at least one of them for
That'll
Thanksgiving and drink a bunch of liquor and maybe some. I won't drink beer, but
that'll be like
scotch.
that'll be like. Some people do Escanaba in the Moonlight.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I like that movie.
Yeah, that's a big deer hunting movie. And so, my quick save for this one is I'm so boring and practical, but this is my quick save. And so what I've included in here is a YouTube video to a video that was basically linked onto Reddit, and I think it was engineering porn. And this is a subreddit that I'm really, really part of, that I love a lot, because what they like to do is they like to elucidate things that are incredibly amazing as far as engineering is concerned. But sometimes you get a really educational piece in there. And this video is it's an explanation about how gearing, levers, and transmissions work. And I thought, that's so boring. But if you watch this video, it's 9 minutes. It basically explains to you how the thing you probably use more than any other device or technology on this planet, your car, how it drives. It explains how the gearing, how it sends torque and energy, and it's really simple. It's very clear and concise about how the gears, when your transmission shifts, it's explaining a manual transmission, but automatic transmissions work the same way. They just use hydraulic energy and pressure to change the gears. But in the end, it's just like, this thing explains the thing that you probably rely on almost 100% to function in society. Without, you would probably not be able to do your job. If you're in kind of a Midwestern or a rural location like Chris and I are, you would not be able to work. You would not be able to get to the place that pays for your bills. And this is a massive thing that we all appreciate and or we underappreciate as far as our vehicles and cars and the mechanical components, and like that, the kind of knowledge and interest that used to be there for cars isn't there. And you don't have to learn how to run a gear, how to work on a car, but just knowing how it works, I think, is really important, and it's something that I find that I enjoy. And it's like, this video kind of brings, you can do a layperson's understanding of how your transmission and how your drivetrain in your car works. And maybe the next time you get in your car and you start driving on the road, you'll appreciate how much hard work goes into it for, dirty machinists and millwrights and people who build that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of one of those things where I don't know a lot about cars. Honestly, I don't, but I find that interesting, to go through the understanding of it. It's kind of funny. I watch videos on how to fix my car, and then I look at my car and I try to start, and then I just say, this is probably not worth my time, because that's just not me. But it is fun to watch those.
You used to be able to just do that. Like, nowadays, they really are really technical pieces of high-end engineering and technology, but they used to really just be a bunch of levers and pulleys and windings and gears and stuff. I mean, anybody could just go in, like the old story of Grandpa being able to wrench on his truck every night when he got home. Like, that was a real thing. Like, nowadays, it's not so much. You almost need a bachelor's degree to be able to work on the electrical system. So, like, this is just something like the mechanical portion of all of our vehicles is still the same. They haven't gotten rid of that, but all the communication and all the thinking is done via silicon chips and stuff now. So, like, just the mechanical parts are still there, and it's really cool to just understand basically how it works.
Yep, and I agree with you. And I think the more we learn about how it works, the more informed we can be. We could talk about
after the zombie apocalypse, we need to rebuild cars. Yeah, I know.
Well, we will. Yeah. Okay, fine. Right. We probably won't, because there won't be any gas, so we won't be able to drive anywhere. We'll be walking everywhere. But
steam power, baby. I'm gonna do a cyberpunk future.
You do. You do that. I think the interesting part of this, though, is it gets people to think outside of their outside of their norm, right? You know, it gets you to think about things that you would not normally think about. You know, I didn't normally like to do cars. I really don't like to do cars, but my buddy comes over and challenges me every once in a while and says, hey, let's watch how to fix this and let's just do it ourselves. And he's kind of the same thing. Yeah, it's not a transmission, no, but it does bring me out of my element. It does force me to look at the world differently. And I think that's the whole point of what our podcast tries to get at sometimes, Hanna. Like, we try to say, hey, stop just voting red. Stop just voting blue. Let's look at why we vote who we are, and let's look at how we can make a difference. You know, this week we started the episode out by looking at a local community focus of this week, right? We stopped and said, hey, they're going to make a difference in Michigan. They're going to make a change. And those of you who are living that are not in Michigan, give us suggestions. I'll do an out-of-state one. I don't care. And maybe we'll do a community one that affects the nation. But the point is that we're looking at things in a different light to say, hey, the norm doesn't work anymore. What's new? What's up and coming? And what's going to change society for the better? How can we become more humanistic in where we're going with our society, and how can we help others see the humanistic value in everyone? Thank you so much for joining us for Cellar Door Skeptics. This was our Thanksgiving episode. We can call it Thankskilling 2, which doesn't exist in the actual world. Go find that movie. I'm telling you now. Go find that movie. But in seriousness, we will be back next week with another amazing episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful night.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker. CellarDoorSkeptics.com.
Considering how you want to help Cellar Door Skeptics, head over to iTunes or your favorite podcast app and give us a rating, because every rating helps push us in front of new listeners. And since our main goal here at Cellar Door Skeptics is to provide the most accurate information possible, we hope that more ratings will mean that more people get to hear the topics that we're presenting. We don't insist that we get a 5-star rating, but Hannah's favorite number is 5, and the more gold stars he gets, the more special he's gonna feel. So what do you say? Head on over to iTunes or Google Play, give us a rating, and help engage with Cellar Door Skeptics today.
I wish this game would just die already. I downvote every Fortnite post that comes up because I hate the game, and hearing my kid go, "What?" every time he gets killed, and the stupid dances every kid does now. Ugh.